My apologies to those I refuse to kiss hello tonight. You'll hear why if my voice lasts until the end. When I was in high school, my friends turned me on to late night radio in New York. There was the storyteller Gene Shepard, who achieved cult status. But following him was a show that I found even more interesting, Long John Nebel. His guests discussed culture, language, politics. Judith Malina and Julian Beck and David McReynolds were frequent guests, talking about nonviolence and anarchism and socialism, I imagine. I was transfixed. I met David for the first time at an anti-war conference at a college in Connecticut in the mid-60s. I was knitting during the meeting and was embarrassed by the clatter caused when I dropped a knitting needle. David was sitting near me and made some snarky comment. I was very gratified, therefore, when soon after he dropped the glass ashtray he was using. I wrote him a snarky note, which he folded into a paper airplane and threw at me. I didn't know he was gay. I thought he was flirting. I got connected with the War Resistance International in 1968 when I participated in their Support Czechoslovakia action by handing out leaflets in Moscow. I went to the WRI Triennial Conference in 1969 when it was held in Haverford, Pennsylvania, and have had a perfect attendance record since. David was on the WRI Council in the 60s and 70s and played a prominent role at the triennials in articulating our position. Over the years, he had severe disagreements with a number of other members, many of whom remained good friends. And if you check out the display back there of greetings from the WRI, some of those folks have sent him, in some cases, extensive greetings. But there were differences of style as well as substance. At one conference, after Jean Van Lierde, an erudite and intellectual Belgian, had delivered a rhetorical attack on the capitalist system, someone remarked that no doubt, come the revolution, Jean would be at the barricades with a machine gun, and David would be there with a joint. When Myrtle Solomon, the beloved chair of the WRI, died, David stepped into the role of chair to deal with the crisis caused by Myrtle's death. He seemed to be traveling back and forth between London and New York on a bi-weekly basis for the 2 years of his term. That was dedication. Since I live in the neighborhood, I was invited to David's Friday night get-togethers. Those of you who didn't know me in my youth have no idea of how timid I was. I didn't feel qualified to put forth my ideas or to take a leadership role. When I went to London as the WRL intern in 1970, I expected to do shit work and were horrified to discover that they expected me to be an organizer, which I wasn't. But on Friday nights at David's, I was drawn into the political discussions and gradually found a voice. Once I made a point and David said, "I hadn't thought of that." What? I thought of something that hadn't occurred to David? That gave me quite a boost. In the lead up to Gulf War I, a coalition of groups started a midday vigil at Rockefeller Center. I was there one day when a couple of Jewish teenagers with yarmulkes faced off against the line and started harassing us. David stepped forward and talked to them quietly. He led them off to the side and was in conversation with them for quite some time. Then they came back to the line facing us and apologized. I couldn't wait to talk to David. At the end of the vigil, I dashed over to him. "David, what did you say to them?" "Oh, just the usual, the same things you would say." Thanks. Although this isn't specifically related to WRL, I want to talk about David's role as a cultural innovator. How many of you have received a picture postcard from David? He'd send out one of his own photos, maybe a close-up of a flower or a gritty street scene. His Friday the 13th parties, his annual Night of the Candles when we gathered to memorialize those we've lost during the year. When David saw Quentin Crisp in the neighborhood, he thought Quentin seemed lonely and in need of befriending. Later, David learned that he had an active social life and was mentioned in all the right columns. He invited Quentin for dinner, but wanted a few more people so that Quentin wouldn't think he was hitting on him. I was the only one available on short notice, so I got to eat a lovely dinner and to hear lots of Quentin's opinions. Later, David invited him to a Friday night gathering so this gay icon could be appreciated by a larger crowd. But David and Quentin established a regular movie-going relationship, despite Quentin's hectic social life. And finally, at conferences, people say that though they may work with other groups, they think of WRL as their home. We may sometimes be a dysfunctional family, but we're family nonetheless. But not all of us remember birthdays. Not all of us perform magic tricks to enthrall young children. Not all of us go off at inconvenient times to visit people in the hospital. David does. Thank you, David.